Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we've got a massive, honestly, super timely topic on our hands: how to proactively navigate severe economic downturns. We're looking at a fascinating framework that goes way beyond simply, riding out the storm. We're going to break down a really structured, highly focused perspective on transforming a once-in-a-century crisis into a launchpad for a completely new era. Grab your notebooks, because we are getting right into it.
So, we kind of have to start with this core question. When the financial world feels like it's crumbling and the headlines are literally screaming about a once-in-a-century tsunami, how should leaders react? Do you hunker down, freeze, and just wait for a government rescue? Or do you take matters into your own hands and aggressively innovate? The source material we're exploring today takes a definitive stand on this, arguing passionately for action over apathy.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. We'll start with the fight against recession, then discuss rejecting crisis excuses, followed by innovating business and sales. From there, we'll examine the macro shift from imitator to innovator, and finally, what it means to lead a new civilization. All right, Section 1, the fight against recession, stepping outside the box.
History shows us that stagnant times usually require totally unconventional voices. And the core premise of our source text today is actually fascinating. The author is writing from the perspective of a religious leader, but they actively step way outside that traditional framework. So instead of just offering spiritual comfort, the text proposes concrete, hard-hitting political and economic solutions to fight the recession. The author basically views fighting economic hardship, like preventing bankruptcies and saving people's livelihoods, as a modern extension of saving the starving or the sick.
Moving right along to Section 2, rejecting crisis excuses, action over fear. And this brilliantly illustrates the mindset shift we need. The text argues, pretty strongly I might add, that the mindset we adopt during a downturn literally dictates whether we sink or swim. So on the passive side, you've got people blaming this once-in-a-century tsunami, complaining about the state of the world, and just waiting for government bailouts. The text actually warns against clinging to 150-year-old ideologies to explain away modern problems. But then on the active side, that's about squeezing out your own wisdom, driving real management innovation, and betting on hope. Using the crisis as an excuse is presented here as an absolute, guaranteed losing strategy.
And the author completely reframes the current global economic hardship with this stark realization. They say the pain of childbirth for an era of 10 billion people has arrived. Wow, right? So instead of viewing the crisis as this permanent disaster or the end of the world, the text characterizes it as a necessary, if painful, transition phase. Humanity is growing, wealth is expanding, and the old systems are just stretching to accommodate a new global population. It's actually a remarkably optimistic way to view economic pain, like it's a catalyst for birth, not death. Okay, Section 3, innovating business and sales. Let's look at the micro solution. So, if this is a transition phase, what are we actually supposed to do on Monday morning? Well, the text provides highly actionable steps for business survival during an economic winter. First up, absolutely do not be swayed by dark news. You just can't run a business based on media panic. Second, strengthen your sales force. When the economy shrinks, the ability to actually sell becomes paramount. Third, this is the exact time to differentiate clearly from your competitors. An economic winter is when the stark differences in quality and service really show. And finally, invest heavily in your human resources. Train your people so they can pivot and adapt when things get tough. But how do you actually execute that differentiation? Well, the text highlights a crucial, literally non-negotiable detail for survival here. Top management cannot hide in their offices. They've got to lead by going to the front lines. The author insists that when employees see top executives going out, meeting customers, and directly gathering field info, the whole company culture transforms. Because let's be real, you cannot find the next big move if you aren't out there directly sensing what the customer actually values right now. Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds, from imitator to innovator, looking at the macro shift. Shifting our view from the individual company up to the national role, specifically focusing on Japan's trajectory as outlined in the source. A massive paradigm shift is needed. In the past, the paradigm was all about copying foreign countries and being bound by what they call post-war curses, basically a mindset of limitation and dependence. But the future paradigm the author envisions requires graduating from being an imitator. The nation needs to step up, become a global role model, and generate true, independent innovation. It's a really powerful call for immense national self-reliance and leadership. So the crucial point is, what does that innovation look like in practice? The text gives a very concrete example, shifting to a new energy civilization.
The author proposes a strategic move away from fossil fuels, which, are often the root of global conflicts, and towards solar, wind, and ocean thermal energy. And this isn't just presented as an environmental initiative, it's framed as a totally vital strategy for securing national safety, driving domestic innovation, and creating new wellsprings of value that are independent of the Middle East or other foreign energy centers.
Which brings us to Section 5, Leading a New Civilization, the Unstoppable Tide. Here is where the explainer reaches its grand conclusion, weaving those individual and national strategies into a vision for a whole new global era. The quote is, "Japan's prosperity will absolutely not waver. We are heading straight out to the open ocean." The author delivers this with just resolute optimism. Despite the panic of the current moment, the vision here is about fearlessly carving out a golden age. It's a bold assertion that through rigorous individual effort and, a refusal to be swept away by negative trends, the future is incredibly bright.
To summarize our final takeaway, overcoming this crisis is not just about keeping your head above water and surviving the day. According to the source material, it's about actively creating and then exporting a completely new societal model to the globe. It's about recognizing that the tide of a new civilization is unstoppable, and the only logical choice is to be the one steering the ship, leading with wisdom, courage, and relentless innovation.
Which leaves us with this final, really vital question for you to ponder. Are you using the difficult times as an excuse to sit back and wait? Or are you squeezing out the wisdom to aggressively innovate in your own sphere, starting right now? The tools and the mindset for a new civilization start with that personal choice. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I highly recommend looking into the source text to explore these ideas further. See you on the next explainer.